Welcome everyone. Welcome to today's wānanga. We're going to be look at Kōrero Takutai Moana. I'm very happy to be here today with some colleagues. Shout out to Jeff O'Malley. Start with them on the screen. Kia ora, Jeff. Thanks for organising today. And also we've got up to 3 speakers today. We've got Karl Majorhazi from Te Tari Whakatau. We have got Keith Holswich from Ngāti Rahiri. And we have Tania Te Hira from Tauranga Aotearoa, Stats New Zealand. So just a reminder, this session's being recorded, and what we'll do afterwards is we'll clip out any arohamais in the middle of the recording, and we'll make it available on the Ngā Poutama Matawhenua YouTube channel, and I'll put a link to that once we get underway. And there's many, maybe 30 plus videos there of all kinds of different kaupapa. So looking forward to this one. So without further mucking around, I'm going to hand over to Karl. And yeah, just a reminder if you can keep your microphone on mute. So kia ora, Karl.
Kia ora tātou. So I'm here to show you a bit about what we have available on our website at Te Tari Whakatau, which is the organisation formerly known as Te Arawhiti, which is the organisation formerly known as the Office of Treaty Settlements. So our full name is now the Office of Treaty Settlements and Takutai Moana, Te Tari Whakatau, but we call ourselves Te Tari Whakatau. And start with our website. So I'm just going to show you a bit of a tour around what we've got available around applicants for Takutai Moana and the mapping tool we use that allow people to interact with that data. So on our main website, we have a section here called Te Tira Takutai Moana, which is where I'm going to take you now. And there's a range of information here. The key ones I'm going to show you today are the maps for Takutai, but I'll start with applications. And with applications for Takutai Moana, we have a couple of different flavors, different pathways. We have what we call a Crown engagement pathway, and we have on our website a range of applications organized by region. And here's a look at the first one here at Tamatea. So when applicants file, and they did this back for 2017, each application is given a case number, which is quite important. You'll see why later on. And it's preceded by this MAC initial. So that's applicants that have chosen to have their determination made by the minister. Those that are through the High Court have this prefix called CIV, C-I-V. I'll show you that in a minute. So this is a little bit about this particular applicant, but the interesting thing for me and for us here is the map that they've used to show us where their application area is. That's one example. If we were to look at a different stream, the High Court applications, they're all listed on the High Court website. Which is, so here's the CIV number for them, CIV. The website has the actual application that was filed, which is a very legalese document. And in some cases, you might see a written description of the area, or an actual map of the area, which is what you see here. So that's a look at applications. Let's go back and let's get started on the maps. And this is the link to the actual mapping website. And we start with a little welcome screen, which gives you some information about what it is we're building, and a link to an email if you want to follow up on anything we've got here. But this website is organized, I'll start back to front, with some how-to guides that goes through some of the things that you can do on this with this mapping tool. So this is where you would go to first of all to figure out what you can do and how you can do it. There is a features and functions tab, which is a show and tell of where you'd find some of those features and functions. So it's information on what you'd see on the map and information on what the various tools do. We also have a tab for a data dictionary, which is some information about some of the key layers that we provide through this particular tool. For those people who want to download, keep and use some of the data sets we have on our site, we have this thing called an open data portal, which gives you access to some of those key layers that we have described. So that's for those that have the tools to be able to work with spatial data, to make their own maps, do their own analyses. But the key tool that we have is Kōrero Takutai, which is our main mapping tool. And the first thing you get is this disclaimer and privacy statement. We don't take ownership of all of the data, because that's sourced by sourced from other organisations. So we do our best with what we've got, which is what this basically says. And as with most maps, we start with a basic screen with a list of layers that we have available ready to work with in this layer list. So the first layer you see here is the status of High Court hearings. Now the High Court hearings are defined by areas that are set by the High Court, and applicants with claims inside those areas do have the opportunity to have their claims heard in the High Court. But we'll just turn it off now and just explain that most maps start with this base map, and then you stack layers on top of that, and we can change the base map. This is probably familiar to both to viewers, but some people may not be that familiar with how map systems work. So yeah, we can change it to topographic maps, or a bland, a light grey backdrop, which helps other information stand out. I quite like the imagery one because that gives us an idea of what the sea floor looks like.
Hey, Carl.
Yo.
Quick question for you, and I know this is a Lynn's question, but I'm asking a question I already know the answer to for others. With that New Zealand imagery, how up to date would that be, in your opinion?
I think you don't get that information from looking at the map. You can find out how up to date it is by going to a place and working out whether it's current or not, if there has been any change.
I'll put a link in the chat too.
This is the standard Eagle Esri base map, which I've found to be pretty good. It may not be up to the minute, but it does feature the latest information that we get that's publicly available. That's what I found anyway.
Thanks, Karl.
So let's tidy the screen up a little bit, and we'll have a look at this layer of all applications involving Crown engagement. Now, when you were looking through the individual application maps earlier on the website and the Crown Court website, you only get to see individual applications. But what we can see now is all applications, and when we apply a little transparency to each application, we can see the degree of overlaps. And so where we have solid coloured areas, there's lots more overlapping applications. Where it's pretty clear, or you can see some blue underneath it, there aren't many overlaps. So let's just take an example here. Tamatea. So there's one application for that area. And if we click on it, we can see some basic information about that application. If I click on Zoom to here, we can go to the actual area of the application. But if we click on some of the non-transparent parts, like so down the bottom here, what we can see is that in this little pop-up with this information, there's 4 overlapping applicants. And the way we can find them is to choose the next feature, and it goes through each application that covers the area that I actually clicked on. So another way to find an application, which rather than clicking and looking at pop-ups to find them, is to search using this tool. We can find an application just by starting to type. So if I start with the map number, and it starts populating it with the most popular ones, 01, and then 09, and then 01. Here we go again. Here it is. Back to Zoom to. So we found an application that we know the number for, but we don't, sometimes we don't know the number. So we can start using other things like your name. And there does happen to be an application where someone called George is involved.
That's very handy.
So let's have a look at what tools we've got available for you. And one of the things that you might want to do is add some data to your map. So if we use this add data or this add data, the same tool, the same button down here, we have a whole range, 88 items that we've already got available to you within the map, or you can add a URL that links to a data set that you've found somewhere else on the internet, or you can upload your own data if you've got it in a ready-to-go format.
Just to add to that, Karl, could you go back to File for a moment? If you're adding your own files here, my understanding is they're only stored in your browser. They're not retained on any government servers or anything.
Yeah, good point.
Thanks, Karl.
So let's do a search for resource consents. we have some data for resource consents. So let's just go back to the Hawke's Bay ones, and you'll see this has been added to our list of layers. And if I expand that, we get a legend of items. And I might just go back out here using the scroll wheel to zoom, and clicking and holding the mouse wheel down. And so here are the Hawke's Bay resource consents that are within 100 metres of the coast or on the coast itself. So this is data that's being provided by Hawke's Bay District Council. If we have a look, this is the information that they've provided about this particular resource consent. So it's quite a powerful tool for people to be able to understand what's going on in or around the area that they're interested in.
Carl, do you mind just showing that workflow again, just once more for us?
Okay.
Maybe for a different area?
Yep. Okay, so if you go back to add data, let's go to find something else, abutting land. So we add that, and this is a data set that was created back in 2014, where some folks went around and defined all of the parcels that intersected the coastal marine area or are one parcel inland, and then applied in this case, the LINS classification, whether it's general land, so a private land, Crown-owned land, or Maori land.
Click on one of those, Carl, just to show us what's in there. So just the basic title stuff.
Yep, very, very high level. It doesn't have any ownership information or any of the other of that kind of rich data set that sits in behind the parcel layer. This is just basically used for us to generally classify land ownership around the coast, because that affects the titles and the award of CMT. Some other tools that we have that are useful are things like, let's see this measure tool. So we can measure distances and areas and find coordinates. So for example, if we wanted to, say, measure the distance from the coast to this island, that's 1.7 kilometers. It's a long swim. But if we wanted to know how many nautical miles it is, that's about it. If we want to work out an area, let's go and do something really crude around what's the area of this kind of place around this island. There we go, 4.5 square kilometers. Or 1,000 acres. Whatever measurement you choose. Another tool that we have here is to record a location, a latitude and longitude. So latitude and longitude of that point on that island is roughly...
That one is really handy, because if folks are wanting to, for example, have a look on Google Maps, those are the numbers that you want to type into Google Maps or Google Earth for 3D, and that will take you to that exact location. It was great, because it's kind of sometimes hard to navigate other mapping tools without that long, like for the ones that are in New Zealand Map Grid, you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's great to have that there.
Yeah, so this map is not in New Zealand Map Grid, which is why you only get latitude and longitude. And don't forget to use the minus for latitude, otherwise you'll end up in the Northern Hemisphere somewhere. And you can choose degrees, which are decimal degrees, or degrees, minutes, and seconds to get your measurement. So there's degrees, minutes, and seconds. Sometimes it gets confused because some people use degrees, minutes, and decimal seconds. And it's also handy if you see in some of the applications where they haven't provided a map, but they've used coordinates to describe the edges of their areas. This is another way to work out where they apply. And it's something that we've had to use and do when we transfer those written descriptions of an application area into a map form. More often than not, the applications go from one point on the coast to another point on the coast out to the limit of the territorial sea, the 12 nautical mile limit, which is a common way of defining an area. What we don't know is where the boundary from one point on the coast intersects with the point on the limit of the territorial sea. So sometimes corrections have to be made because the angle could be misinterpreted. Sometimes they go straight out perpendicular to the coast, or some have them horizontally straight out to the limit. It's it depends on how folks define the area.
Oh, we've got a question here for you. Is it right to go as we are? Carry on. Do you mind being interrupted? Is that okay?
No, you can ask.
I asked you beforehand. It's a really good question here, and that's in relation to that add data search tool. I think you showed us a curated data set, but I just wonder, could you show us how to add a data set from, say, a wider ArcGIS Online that may not be part of Takutai Moana curated data sets?
All right, let's have a crack.
Maybe from the search, is it from the drop down?
Well, the search
just from Kōrero Takutai, is that a drop down there from just to the left, that little wee drop down thingy? You can only search.
Yeah.
So it's only within a group that you've curated.
Yeah. So that's already loaded up in Kōrero Takutai to be put on these maps.
Okay.
The URL, you'll have to go to the place with the URL and enter it in whatever format that data set exists in.
So if you had something, say, I don't know, Māori land blocks of a certain type from some council, the best way to add it in here would be using a REST URL that you would track down from their open data site. Is that right?
Yeah, if you've got that link, yeah, that's the way to do it.
Cool. Thanks, man. Sorry, please carry
on. I can't see the questions from
yeah.
So thanks for that. Right. One of the key pieces of functionality for us that I'll show you is to find out what applications are overlapping an application area that you're interested in. This is a very common question because that defines who we need to talk to, who else has an interest in a particular area. And the way we do that is this tool in the middle called Query. And it's a reasonably, let's turn you off, get it out of the way, a reasonably tricky process to go through. and it's a two-step process. One is to find an area, and the other one is to find the areas that overlap. And so if we start with this one, find a Crown engagement application, we have a find a High Court application if you want to find applications in that pathway. But if we start with finding a Crown engagement application, so if we know the number or the name, we can start typing. Let's just do our 01, 09, Tamatamatia. It's a nice, easy one. And what happens is that you add this to our list of layers that we have on our map, and we can give it a unique name. Which helps us keep track of what we're doing if we're doing this for multiple applications. And we apply. And look, it's found it for us. And this is it. And it's on the map. And if I bring up the layer list, here it is. I can turn it off and on again, treat it like any map. And this is a temporary layer that has been created just for this map and just for this session. So if I was to close down, come back, that layer will be gone. So that's step number one. We go back to the query and go back to the query menu. The next thing to do is find an overlapping set of applications. So it says here, you must perform query 1 first, which is what we've just done. So it's the same sort of thing, but we choose a spatial relationship, and in this case, we only have one available, and that's intersect. And intersect means any layer that touches or is inside the layer that we've chosen. So what we will do is use this Tamatamatia layer we created as the layer that we're going to use to select all the applications that cover this one application area. And so let's give this a name. Y. And these are all the applications that intersect. And we have that list of 8 of them down here, and we can single them out if we wanted to do that. And we have this version of the map, but another thing we can do if we really wanted to keep a copy of this is print it out, and we can add some stuff to it, add some lines, some polygons, some annotation to it to make it a more useful map. So if you, for example, we can add an arrow to the map to show something you might be interested in. We can add some text. Let's make it white and put it somewhere close. Yeah, not very tidy, but you get the idea. If we want to add some lines, yeah, and these again appear on our map as layers. Remember, our maps are made up of layers stacked on top of one another. And now that we have our view, we can print. So we have a little printing tool, which we can give our map a name. Something like that. We can choose a size. Let's save paper and do landscape, and we'll make it A4 portrait because it's taller than it is wider. There's some advanced tools which you can make some more finer adjustments to your map, but let's just go with the default and print and cross our fingers while it goes and does all the things it needs to do to create this this PDF. Look, there it is, and there is our map with all the things that we need to identify some meta information, a scale and a reference scale, and the layers that we have on the map itself. It's very quick and dirty, but it is very effective for people who just want to create something to show somebody else. So that's the basic tour of the key functionality. There's some other things, but I'll leave that for you to explore at a later date.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carl.
Back to you, Duane.
Thanks, Carl. That's great, man. I think if folks have, I've put the links to these tools on the chat, and if anyone has any partai, feel free to put them in the chat and we can come back to them at the end there as well. And if time permits, I'll do a wee demo of how to add data from a completely different source, but we'll see how time goes. So, kia ora, Carl. Are you happy to share your email, Carl, or a contact email?
I will put it in the link.
Put one in the chat for us. Or we can use the GrowGIS to pass on as well. So, awesome. So we're going to hand over to Keith, who's going to share with us his experience as they've gone through using a variety of different tools, and I'm going to share a couple of maps while Keith just talks us through and share some of his experience, and then we'll come to Tania as well. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Kia ora, Keith, over to you, e hoa.
Kia ora, Duane. Kia ora, whānau. My name's Keith Holswich. I'm Ngāti Rahiri of North Taranaki. I'm a retired land surveyor after 50 years in the profession. When we as a hapū were asked to prepare our narrative with respect to the Te Atiawa Takutai Moana application, we decided to use our in-house GIS system to show graphically how the land ownership of our coastal areas had changed from 1840 to the present day. Now, our GIS system is very much old school. It doesn't include all the bells and whistles that the wonderful information that Duane and his team have been providing recently. And we were not aware of the wonderful resources that Carl has just shown. So our area within our rohe is 7.3 kilometres west to east from Titirangi to Te Rawa to Huia. And we split that into two blocks, the west area and the eastern area, to show what was going on. There's some very important dates in our hapū history, and we wanted to show these, and the first one is 1840. And this is the information that we've put together from our GIS, which shows the coastline, the traditional names of our whenua, our pā, urupā, kāinga, mara sites, including the extents, all our walking tracks, traditional walking tracks, our reef areas and their names, and Tauranga Waka, all our canoe landing sites. So we've accumulated this information over the years, and that is the basis of where we started from, the 1840s. All of the land was traditional Māori-owned land, and we occupied the coast. In 1865, of course, our lands were confiscated. No need to map this. In 1866, some of our lands were returned, fortunately including the coastal areas. but there was no need to map this. The next important date is 1884, when the government gave Crown grants to the 7 hapu making up Ngāti Rahiri. And this was important to map. So this plan shows the lands awarded to the various hapu and the names associated with those hapu. And we've also included all the original information from that first map. So the reef names are there. The only difference now is that there are roads coming down to the coast. The government decided to put roads through our land, and so we've shown those on there as well. The next important date that we have is 1920. And in 1920, if we go on to, in 1920, at our request, all of our lands were individualised for hapu members. So we've shown this map with the individualised parcels of land. But again, we show all of the pa sites, the urupa sites, and it was at this time that many urupa were officially set aside. And you can see that at this stage in 1920, all of the land was still traditionally hapu owned, and there was a lot of areas of all of our occupation sites. Between that date and 2020, and due to many factors, but primarily because of the Muldoon government's Think Big project at Motunui in the early 1980s, much of our coastal land was taken for this development. The council then established Esplanade reserves along the coastline, and they're shown in yellow, and some of the land had been sold to farmers. And this is the final map of where we are today. It clearly shows that we as a hapu still traditionally hold around 14% of our coastal lands. And of course, we still claim kaitiaki responsibilities over the whole of our coastline. So in very simple terms, we just produce these sets of maps to show the difference in land ownership. And on this last one, you can see the blue areas. If we go back, the blue areas where all of the petrochemical development has taken place. Our lands were, I was going to say, purchased from us. They were, we lost our lands for that big development. And there's still a lot of traditional hapu lands left. And so by producing these maps, we could show Te Atiawa what had happened to our land over 180 years and where we are today. And these maps are only part of our narrative relating to the coastal area. They're not flash maps by any means, but they simply show how a small hapu such as us can and did use our GIS systems to graphically show the coastal landscape changes over the last 180 years or so. So that's all I have, Duane, and that just shows what we've done, and I'm happy to take any questions, any patai on what we've just shown. Thank you.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you, Keith. And we're aiming also to have an extended kōrero with Keith next month. We will have a look at, because that's just one part. So yeah, if you have any patai, feel free to put them in the chat, or just unmute now if you want. Maybe just one.
Duane, I'm happy for my email to go on the chat, and I'm happy to take any personal comments at any time from anyone if anyone wants any information of what we did and how we went about it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Keith. I'm really looking forward to next month with you, or to understand how you went through the process, and so to help others understand how they can find, how they can map. We're looking forward to that session with you. So kia ora.
Thank you, Duane.
Okay. Any patai, feel free to put them on the chat, but we will move at a cracking pace here. Going to pass over to Tania Te Hira, who's going to share her experience as well with us.
Kia ora, Duane. Kia ora whānau. So I'm just going to share my experience I had back in 2021 when I was very feel very lucky and privileged to, I was able to help out with some of my whānanga with some of the Takutai Moana maps, as well as a couple of kind of other mapping exercises and tasks outside Takutai Moana, mapping cultural sites and stuff like that. So I kind of thought I would share my experience there, share it from my own personal experience and perspective, and as someone who is reconnecting back to, you know, her whakapapa and her tupuna and hokianga. So basically I'm really gonna show a couple of websites and resources which I found quite useful while kind of explaining why I found it useful. So as I said, back in 2021, when I was working on the Te Hānuiarangi project, it's a project where one of my whanaunga, Hiniamaru Davies Linden, was our project manager, and we also had the lawyer Gerald Sharrock, who had been working with her whānau on Takutai Moana, as well as other Waitangi related claims and mapping. There was some downtime while they were getting the drone ready, so they're like, can you help us out with these mapping tasks? I'm like, awesome, it's going to be great. And yeah, it was a bit of a steep learning curve, but yeah, I managed to learn a lot. So I was making maps from scratch and was kind of like, okay, what information do I need? What is useful? What layers would be useful to kind of overlay with the kōrero and cultural sites in areas of significance and things like that. So as Carl's already shown, Kōrero Takutai. I found this and I did find it really, really useful. And one of the things I did actually find it quite useful for was checking with going through and looking at the application areas that my whanaunga have put through already and checking with them, is this correct? Has this been captured correctly? Are there any changes we need to make? So I found it really useful from that point of view, as well as downloading some of the data and boundaries that I wanted to use on the maps I was creating, instead of having to recreate anything new. So that was one of the resources. The other one I used quite a bit was actually the LINS data service. So I needed to get the things like the mean high water and the 12-mile limit and a couple of other pieces of information that LINS had. So I used the LINS data service and the resource here. Sorry, can't spell. So as Carl showed before, you can access these layers through Kōrero Takutai, but if you also want to download them, some of these from here, you can do that as well. I found it really useful from that perspective. Other places where I was managed to grab some GIS data was also from coordinates. So if you don't want to, it's actually got quite a few information from Department of Conservation, other government departments. It does have some council data, but yeah, I found that I still had to look outside of one platform and sometimes go to council websites to grab some of that data. But again, this was quite good if I wanted to try and get information from other agencies in one place. I could get Lynn's data from here. Like I said, I could also grab information from things like Department of Conservation if you want to look at where marine reserves are, all that sort of stuff. And then the last thing, and this is a very, very recent thing. Unfortunately, this was not published back when I was doing this, but this is a document that Lynn's has published back in 2023, and guidance to support applications for recognition of customary interests. And yeah, I had a look through it and I thought it was really, really useful. So I did really want to share this. And I will put it in the chat, but the link to it. But yeah, it's kind of got guidelines and stuff and helpful information when you are creating your maps, if you are starting from scratch. Yeah, so that is a very, very quick run through some of the resources that I did use, as well as this additional one that I think is really helpful. But yeah, from the perspective of someone who I guess kind of fell into this, and I'm really, really grateful for my whānanga from Tai Tokoro for their patience with me, with the processing from learning a lot of the legal side of it. It was really, really interesting to see the process that they had to go through in order to do this. Yeah. Hopefully that was useful, and that's pretty much, yeah,
Great.
all I've got. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Tania. It's great. I've put those couple of links on the chat for folks as well. So we have a little time, and I thought it might be worth just very quickly if I give a very short demo of how to add in other data to Kōrero Takutai from any other source. I'll try and be as quick and brief as possible, and then we'll pause the recording and have some parts high. So I've got a logged out session here, and I'm going to come in there. So what we were talking about is how to add a URL in here. I've got one just handy here, and then I'm going to show you how to find one. Let's see if this one works. This one is Māori land blocks with land use capability, or the quality of the soil. And you can see that's come in quite nicely because there's going to be nothing after the coast. But these colours represent different qualities of land use. So 8, not really useful for agriculture, but number 1, you'll find a lot of that waikato or high producing pasture. So what I did there is I took a link and I pasted it into the URL there. And this could be from local council or from any other source as well. So let me show you how to find any kind of data that you're looking for. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to go arcgis.com, and ArcGIS is the suite of tools that Kōrero Takutai is built on. And I'm not going to log in at all. I'm going to look here for a type of data. So if I look for Māori land blocks, and I can see there's a number of different sources here, but one with names that I kind of recognize, the data is more likely to be trustworthy. Here, for example, I can see Massey.ac. This is probably a student, this person here. Same with Alicia. She's got from Ministry for Justice or Primary Industries, but from this point, I'm not sure if it's just what's in that area or not. So if I go this data set here, I just click on that. And then what I need to do is figure out how do I get that URL, that one here. It looks like this. It says services, bunch of characters, ArcGIS REST services, and then the name of the layer that I want, feature server. And I'm very impatient when I do such things. So I just click around until I see something that looks like URL. There we go, first time, boom, which is basically the same as what I did just before. So I copy that, and then I'm not sure why, but out of habit, I always like to just check that it works. And it comes up with this, and this is a machine readable code, and this is the same link that I found earlier. And so then if we go to Kōrero Takutai, I can paste it in there, add it as well. And you may want to bookmark, just bookmark that, that page if that data is useful. But there's a lot of data in here. If we wanted, for example, if I go back up here, and so I was using Kōrero Takutai, and I wanted to find, I just go back to arcgis.com because I'm doing this without logging in, just so you can see anybody can do this. Don't sign in, go up here. Let's say I want marae. I want to add a layer of marae on there. Now, Kōrero Takutai might have that in there. Karl, if you want to chip in, it may already be there. But, oh, look at this fellow. He's got an awesome set. Oh, yeah, we'll try his. We'll go with Te Puna Kōkiri. So what I did last time is I went details, but I'm going to try and click different things. Okay, that's not going to give it. View details, maybe. We've already seen one way to capture that link. Now, because I've used this a bit, I know that down here is also the URL. And if you're like me and starting to drift a bit from Google search and into ChatGPT type searches, you can just ask it, tell me what types of data sets might be useful for my for my Takutai Moana application, and where can I find those layers for this area? And you can send it off to do a search for a council or whatever. But if I paste that one in there, add, now I have marae, and if I zoom in, I can see in this, oh, let's go look for Keith up the road a bit. So we have other recordings on our Ngā Poutama Matawhenua page that will show you how to do this and other types of activities as well. This is just very briefly showing you marae, and as Karl was showing you, when you click through, it's also telling you all the other data sets as well. And of course, you can zoom right down and have a look where to park. And we're going to see them next week. Okay, so just very, very quickly, that's all I wanted to show you, and that's recorded, of course, so now you can have a look at that in your own time once that recording's on screen. So kia ora everyone, thank you for joining us today.